On this week's episode, learn how University of Iowa students are drawing attention to international human rights. Meet a student who found her passion on campus. Meet a family who turned to the University of Iowa Children's Hospital after discovering a tumor during a routine ultrasound during pregnancy. And learn more about the American Sign Language Club on campus and how it benefits hearing and deaf students. Hi, I'm Haley McMiniman. Welcome back to another episode of Inside Iowa, your destination to discover more about the University of Iowa and its students, research, faculty, and alumni. The University of Iowa is a diverse campus filled with students and alumni who raise awareness for global and local human rights initiatives. Meet some students who have built their lives around fighting for international human rights and hear their personal accounts of activism.
Students at the University of Iowa come from all around the world. More than 3,000 international students are enrolled as undergraduates, and their global perspective encourages all students and alumni to examine worldwide issues and join the fight for human rights.
So Iowans are very globally minded, very globally engaged, and what happens overseas, whether it's a security issue or any other type of issue, we should all really care about it.
More than 30 student organizations are internationally engaged, and several teamed together this year to sponsor Human Rights Week. Kira Say, founder of Students Abolishing Slavery, coordinated the events for Human Rights Week to remind people of the ongoing battle against continued modern-day slavery.
When we say modern-day slavery, I'm talking about child soldiers, right? I'm talking about domestic servitude. I'm talking about a lot of the people that are out there creating our clothes, making our clothes, being forced to work in a sweatshop. I'm talking about child prostitution. I'm talking about prostitution in general. And so there's this huge realm, this huge umbrella called modern day slavery. And there's so much that lies underneath it where people are enslaved. And my organization tries to spread awareness about those issues.
Human Rights Week launched with a candlelight vigil and ended with a passionate evening of poetry.
The issue of human rights is something that affects us all, and that we're interconnected. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to speak at this event, is show that, hey, I'm someone here who had a direct family member who was tortured, and having these sort of personal accounts, I think, can change perspectives and make people realize that even here in Iowa, human rights do matter.
With no representation, he was sentenced to life in concentration for dissension. No dimension of due process, no mention in the papers, just mock execution, electrocution, and seclusion. Growing up, my dad had dentures for an abundance of missing teeth. With reluctance, he once pulled me aside and revealed what he hid for years deep underneath.
And he revealed to me how he was given a life sentence in 1974 and tortured until the revolution of 1979.
And I keep going back to my mother, who was dealt this war. You see, her boyfriend Mohammed was detained in 1974, abruptly not around anymore. But she had the faith that one day the man she so adored would walk through that door and plant that kiss. And it went exactly down like that. And now I know what love is. Thank you.
With the United States, when we do simple things such as letter writing campaigns through programs like Amnesty International, we know for a fact they've released prisoners because of the pressure coming from United States citizens.
One such example is Roxana Saberi, an Iranian American who in 2009 was imprisoned in Iran for journalism, and has since visited the University of Iowa to tell her story and encourage the fight for human rights.
I'd like people to know that even though each of us just has one voice, that our voice can make a difference. Oftentimes we think, well, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? But I've seen in my case and many other cases that when people do get together and unite their voices, that they can make a difference. We don't have to try to change the world all at once, but there are people all around us who can use our help, and we can do that in very very simple ways, even that can make a difference.
If something doesn't really work well with you, or upsets your stomach, or you feel it in your gut like this is wrong, don't sit on it. Find out what you can do, and there's always something you can do. It may not be as big as you think, but it'll make a difference.
On the waiting for this moment to be free.
Emily Bussey is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Iowan. She decided to try journalism for a semester and fell in love with it. She has been awarded several merit-based scholarships for her hard work.
I'd always been really interested in writing, but I hadn't necessarily thought of journalism as a career path. But then when I came to college and I sort of thought, well, I'll try it for a year. The Daily Iowan seems really cool. If I don't like it, I'll stop, but if I do like it, I'll keep going. And I decided to try it all out for 1 year, and that's what I did. And it ended up being an awesome experience. And it's really hard to work here and be a full-time student, especially with scholarships and trying to keep up your grades and stuff. It can be kind of tough, but it's worth it. Probably the biggest scholarship that made the biggest difference was the presidential scholarship. I wrote a very personal essay. I worked really hard on it. It took a lot of time. It was a rewarding experience to get that scholarship because it not only helps out my family, it made me feel like they wanted me to be here, and I wanted to be here as much as they wanted me to come, and they wanted to invest in my experience here, and that made a big difference in where I wanted to go. The second most important scholarship, and maybe the more important in terms of what I'm specifically doing during school, was the Daily Iowan Bill Mertens Memorial Scholarship. I got a call from Bill Casey, the publisher, saying, "We'd like to offer you this scholarship. Do you think do you need some more time to figure out if you want to come to Iowa?" And I was just like, nope, I want to come to Iowa. I think that I am 100% more confident in leaving school than I would be if I'd never worked at the Daily Iowan.
Leanne Bowman discovered shocking news when she went in for a routine ultrasound during her pregnancy. Doctors found a tumor on her baby which continued to grow throughout the pregnancy. Doctors and staff at the University of Iowa Children's Hospital were prepared and removed the tumor shortly after baby Bryn was delivered.
Going in for a normal routine 20-week ultrasound, the ultrasound tech had discovered a mass. Wasn't sure if it was spina bifida or if it was something else at that time, and that's when we were referred down to the University of Iowa Children's Hospital. Ended up being a tumor, and it was kind of hard to come to that realization that our baby was not perfect.
First thought was, what did we do wrong?
Right.
We eat or drink something wrong or whatever, and that was the first thing. Reassured us it was nothing we did, and there was just one, and we hit the lottery, I guess. It was definitely overwhelming.
After that first month, we came back, and the tumor had grown, doubled, I think, in size at least. Their goal was to get her to 38 weeks, but the tumor was just getting too large too quick.
Bryn was born at 31 weeks, and then 36 hours after that is when she went under, had the tumor removed.
The tumor is called a sacrococcygeal teratoma. It's one of the tumors that we see in little babies. It's typically benign at that age. If you leave it any longer, it can become malignant in time, and hers was benign. The challenge really is to get rid of such an enormous big tumor and do that safely.
Dr. Pritchard was able to completely resect the whole tumor at once. Nurses were always very nice and very helpful. They always let me help. In fact, a lot of times they told me that I wasn't letting them do their jobs. The tumor, there's always that possibility that it could come back, so she'll be checked still for several years. Since Bryn's been out of the NICU, she's been doing amazing. You can tell nothing's gonna hold her down, and her sisters are her world, which is pretty fun to see. I expect no problems down the road. The University of Iowa Children's Hospital means life-saving. They saved our daughter's life, and mine ultimately.
Without them, I wouldn't have my family right now. I owe them everything.
University of Iowa student Amy Huang is one of the many students who attend the American Sign Language Club. She is deaf, but many members are hearing students. The ASL Club is one of the many different clubs offered on campus. It's a fun way to learn and improve sign language skills, and it's open to all students and members of the community. Be sure to check out their Facebook page for when they meet next.
The University of Iowa's American Sign Language Club, or ASL Club, serves as a place for sign language students, deaf individuals, and any members of the community who are interested in sign language to interact and practice their signing skills. Amy Huang is deaf and a student at the University of Iowa.
I had to take an ASL class for language requirement. So when I started signing, I totally love it. I just want to do it and want to help people who can hear, so I can help interpret it for deaf people and talk to hearing people. I want to help it.
Amy got a cochlear implant at a young age and has communicated by speaking for most of her life, as well as a particular type of sign language called Signed Exact English.
So Signed English is it's using signs that are used in ASL, but you're following English grammar. Whereas ASL, we have our own grammatical structure where you have completely switched around sentences and everything's in a completely different order.
Because Amy has spoken and used a different type of signing for much of her life, she has not completely been immersed in the deaf community or ASL as a language.
That's a fairly common story, the deaf person who grows up mainstream, going to hearing schools and being with hearing people and functioning as a hearing person, but not quite fitting in, not quite feeling the same, perhaps with some difficulties with communication. And then discovering the deaf community in adulthood. And then learning ASL and really getting immersed in the deaf community.
However, ASL Club offers a way to fit in for anyone as long as they have an interest in learning or using sign language. It is a student-run organization that has offered Amy and many others an opportunity to improve their ASL.
She's been coming every week to club, which is awesome, and you can again see her skills just improving. She's just like starting out, and I don't think you would know that right now. If you went and tried to sign with her, I don't think you'd realize that she just started learning last semester. Just some of the people who have come through, I think, even if they've just started ASL 1, they're just kind of getting introduced to it and not really knowing what's going on, but they come, and then they start to come every week, and you can just see their skills improve so much more than their classmates because they're actually using the language that they're learning. Because we have a no voice zone when we're at club. So it's completely sign, you're completely immersed in it, doing different things, not just sitting in the classroom learning vocabulary. You're playing games, you're interacting with people. I mean, it's just another learning environment.
The great thing about ASL Club is that it is not just a learning environment, but a way to meet new people.
When I went to Iowa for my first semester, I was a little bit nervous because it's my first time to go by myself. So when my first day came, I was walking around, I was completely lost. So I was walking around and went to my class. It was so different than my high school. And I tried to keep talking to new people because I was a little bit shy before, but now it changing my experience or life because I'm not that shy anymore.
That wraps up this week's episode. I hope you learned more about the University of Iowa and how it impacts the state, the country, and the world. Stop by next week for another episode. For Inside Iowa, I'm Haley McMiniman. Thanks for watching.